Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Interplanetary Chase on Kerbal Space Program. In the previous episodes, we built this beauty of a rocket. After a bit of a failed test flight, we are once again ready to go and attempt to shoot for the moon. A little bit early, however, I'd like to think we have our tech level up to spec, as you can see. And Jebediah once again sneaks into the cockpit, so we're going to switch him out for Munrick there, our designated moonlander Kerbal. And here he is as we launch off the pads here. This is accelerated footage. I'm not going to accelerate it too much because we've not done a moon trip before, so obviously we'll see how this goes as we ascend very nicely here. A lot quicker than the previous design, courtesy of those amazing kickback solid rocket boosters, and we begin a slight gravity turn here. Munrick looking very content down in the corner there as we reach 10,000 meters. Continuing our gravity turn, it might not be the optimal ascent profile, but for what we're using it for, it works. And our solid rocket boosters here run out of fuel. We decouple them. They do collide with the main lifting stack, however they don't hit it hard enough to do any damage, thankfully. So yeah, I think we're in desperate need of some Separatrons in order to prevent that from happening again. We are slowly accelerating, and as of now, our apoapsis is above the atmosphere at 73,000 kilometers. We're going to create a maneuver node to attempt to circularize our orbit here, so we can possibly get a nice little slingshot to the moon as we do a quick puff of the engine there just to maintain our current apoapsis, as we are still in the atmosphere. We are still subject to a little bit of drag, so we need to make sure that we keep on course as much as we can. Now, we're now pointing towards our maneuver node, so I think we need to do a little bit of a burn here where the skipper engine, I believe the skipper's the engine we're using here, is quite efficient, but it's not the most powerful, especially given the payload of which we're trying to circularize here. So we're going to once again continue our burn, and as you can see in the bottom left corner, we are in the maneuvering mode, and we are actually reaching our apoapsis a little bit faster than I would have initially anticipated. So as a result, we're going to stop pointing towards our maneuver node and try to extend our apoapsis out a bit. And as you can see, our time to apoapsis is now increasing, which means that this is working. And our lifting stage has now run out of fuel, so we're going to detach that onto our transfer stage. So obviously circularizing with the transfer stage isn't ideal, however we do have the delta V to do it, and I think we should be okay. Now we're going to point back towards progrades. Our apoapsis is currently at 78 kilometers. Periapsis is slowly coming up from negative 250 kilometers here. This burn might take a little bit of time owing to this engine's efficiency. Once again, it's not the most powerful, but it's very fuel efficient there. It's got a very good fuel economy. Once again, pushing our apoapsis upwards slightly as we're about to reach the peak of our orbit, and I think that will do nicely. Periapsis is now in the negative double figures here. We continue our burn. Periapsis is now 0, and we're going to push that up to above 70 kilometers, currently 40. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a stable orbit around Kerbin. That's 80 kilometers by 74 kilometers. It might not be perfectly circular, however we don't need it to be for our use. We're going to set up our transfer to the moon, very easy to do. All you need to do is burn prograde once you see the moon come up over the horizon, and odds are you will get a moon encounter, as evidenced by our maneuver node there. But I'll quickly set up just to make sure that that logic was sound, and I would like to think it is. Now our burn time is 1 minute 31 minutes, so we're going to start that burn at roughly 45 seconds from the nodes to ensure a good bit of delta V expended on either side here. Once again, this burn is to ensure a encounter with the moon, and then from there, obviously, we'll time accelerate and begin a circularization burn around the moon. Until then, we're slowly pushing our apoapsis out to the moon's orbital altitude there. I'm not sure if the moon has an inclined orbit. That might be Minmus, Kerbin's second moon, that the scientists back at the KSC have recently discovered. Anyway, 200 meters per second away from completing this maneuver here, and we'll be doing so on the map here, just so you can see our encounter, which we've now achieved. Going to try and push our periapsis slightly closer to the moon, as you can see, and that is wonderful. So now we need to set up another maneuver node just to circularize around the moon, just to ensure that we stay in orbit. I want quite a low orbit. Reason being is because we're going to be looking for a landing site, obviously, when we're in said orbit. And the lower we are, basically, the better we'll be able to see the terrain beneath us. So I'm going to point towards that maneuver node, just to save us having to maneuver by the time we get there. Time accelerates, and we slingshot away from Kerbin here. As you can see, it's quite far in the distance now, and here is the moon. We have many available experiments now, so we're going to do some of which we have more than one to allow us to reset them. And as you can see, we do get a good chunk of science here. EVA report quickly. We can't transmit that, but that's fine. Get back in the cockpit. We do have a material study worth 50, however I would ideally like to save that for when we're on the moon's surface. As I imagine it would be worth a little bit more there as we begin our circularization burn here. I've got to say, it's a lot nicer doing orbital maneuvers around the moon where its gravity isn't quite as much as Kerbin. And we're coming to the end of our burn. Wonderful, that burn has been completed. However, I think we may have slightly overdone it, as you can see, we're no longer in moon orbit, and we will be crashing down, which isn't good. So I'm going to point prograde, and we're going to correct that manoeuvre. Not correct that manoeuvre, but we're going to perform a bit of a burn just to ensure that we do still remain in the moon's orbit. I would have left it as it was, however I wasn't too sure where we would end up in terms of a landing site. So obviously we've done that burn. We're now in low moon orbit, so we're going to do a few more experiments here, once again the repeatable ones. Wonderful. Crew report. No comms device on this vessel. Okay, fair enough. Atmospheric pressure scan. Another EVA report. Keep that experiment. Back in we get. We're going to carry on our orbits here. And we're now going to point prograde, because I think now we're on the light side of the moon. It's about time that we begin our lunar descent. Well, not prograde, retrograde. Grades. There we go. And fire those engines. Kill our horizontal velocity, as you can see from our orbital speed down on the nav ball there. 250-ish. I'm going to wait for that to become more or less zero, so we can go straight down, and from there it's just a matter of arresting our vertical speeds at the correct time. That'll do very nicely. So we're going to re-enable the stability assist. You may notice we're doing this with the transfer stage. I do intend on getting rid of that before touchdown, because obviously our landing legs only go so far. And I thought, well, this is a very good way to save on fuel perhaps. Maybe on future moon landers or landers where we intend on visiting planets with no atmosphere, we could possibly attach the transfer stage via a docking port to allow us to maybe ditch that, land using the landing stage, go up, circularize, and dock up with the transfer stage to refuel and return home perhaps. But obviously, as of now, we're arresting our vertical speed. 3.5 kilometers above the moon's surface. I think it's about time that we get rid of that stage. As we do that, fire our poodle engine, as you can see. Deploy the landing gear legs. And I don't want to land in this crater. It looks like uneven ground. So we're going to burn away from that a little bit as the engine crashes down there. Going to burn retrogrades to arrest our horizontal speed. And we do so very nicely, I must say. And from here it's just a matter of putting it in a nice little hover and ever so slightly, not slightly, slowly touching down on the lunar surface. As we do try to kill our velocity here. It's quite difficult where we don't have many reaction wheels other than one in the command module, but that doesn't matter because, ladies and gentlemen, we have touched down on the moon, and Munrick is the first ever Kerbal in our series to do so, as we get a nice little screenshot here to celebrate the moment. And we're going to for sure be doing all of those available experiments here. Pressure scan, mystery goo, material study worth 100 science points, temperature scan, pressure scan. Once again, keep that experiment, mystery goo observation. We're going to collect all of those experiments. Wonderful. And we're going to do a crew report as well from the Moon's Highlands. Collect that. Munrick, it's time to go on a bit of an EVA, a bit of a spacewalk, as we use his RCS pack here to gently touching down on the Moon's surface. And that's one small step for Kerbal, one giant leap for Kerbal kind. As we take a look back at Kerbin here and see how far we've come since our first couple of missions. A very proud moment for the Kerbals, and Munrick looking, excuse the pun, over the moon as we take a surface sample there. EVA report. You say something dramatic and poignant about the plight of Kerbal kind, but it doesn't matter because I can't read it fast enough as we plant a flag here to mark the landing site, and obviously we will call that the moon landing site. Block text, Interplanetary Chase, first moon landing, it's all a lie, it's not made of cheese, as we type it down here. Very disappointing given our tendency for snacks, but that doesn't matter. It's still a hell of an accomplishment as we run back towards our little rockets here. Going to activate the RCS pack for Munrick, fire him upwards, and back into the command pods here. Now, I must apologise, my game actually crashed when I did so I had to reload. Luckily it was when Munrick was already back in the rocket. I imagine it was something to do with the free IVA mods there. It kept all our science. In hindsight, I don't think it kept our flag, but that's not a big deal. Obviously, we still have all our science. So yes, I must apologise about the inconsistency there as we commence our ascent. We're trying to get into an orbit directly, I believe that is directly east or west, I'm not too sure. However, at the end of the day, we do need a slingshot out of the moon's sphere of influence back towards Kerbin. And I believe we have the Delta V to do so. Once again, we're just approaching our apoapsis to try and get a somewhat circular orbit going on here. It's quite difficult though, given the moon's lack of gravity. It doesn't matter though, because we have done it. We're going to fire ourselves out of the moon's sphere of influence, back into a Kerbin orbit, as we time accelerate to this manoeuvre here. It's a very short burn, as you can see, it's only 3 seconds. As we very slowly approach the manoeuvre node here. Once again, a bit of time acceleration. And here we go, stability assist on. We're going to burn the motor a little bit. As you can see, that puts us with a Kerbin periapsis of 3.5 million meters there. And we're going to put this periapsis down, hopefully, into Kerbin's atmosphere. Not by too much. I think 20 kilometers might be too deep. 50 might be okay. Ideally, I'm looking at 60 because I want to attempt to kind of aero brake within our first circle around Kerbin. We do have a few more experiments to do from high above Kerbin in space, of which we will gladly take the opportunity to do so. Atmospheric temperature scan, collect all those. Going to time warp. As you can see, we have plenty of fuel left, so assuming this aero brake doesn't work, then we will still have plenty of fuel to arrest our orbital speed with. Once again, just a little burn to ensure our periapsis is within Kerbin's atmosphere. As we complete that burn. Not quite there, just a little bit more. Let's say 60-ish kilometres. There you go. That will do lovely. Once again, we are about to dive into Kerbin's atmosphere. On the dark side, I'm not too concerned about orientation at this rate because where it's so high up, I don't expect that we'll be experiencing too much heating effect. And time acceleration is starting to get a little bit restricted owing to our altitude. Collect all the experiments just in case. And we are now within Kerbin's atmosphere, technically speaking. We don't seem to be slowing down much. If anything, we seem to be accelerating. So we're going to burn our engine for a little bit. Once again, just to ensure that we do manage to deorbit this vessel. And I've only just seen the fuel. We've used quite a bit of fuel getting our apoapsis down there. So I think best course of action will be to coast up to our apoapsis and burn what's left of our fuel, burning retrograde to arrest our orbital velocity and attempt a nice little re-entry into Kerbin's atmosphere properly this time. And as you can see, we are approaching our apoapsis roughly 2 minutes away. As of now it's 5 seconds, fire the engine, out of fuel, and we're going to decouple that stage as it is now nothing but extra mass. And as it stands, our periapsis is now in the negatives, which means we will 100% be re-entering Kerbin's atmosphere and hopefully not crashing down, but we'll have to wait and see. And we're going very quickly here. Definitely some heating effects kicking in now. Munrick looking very pleased to be coming home. However, he is going through the hardest part of the return. Heat shield is putting in work. He's hoping the ablator can hold, and all the experiments above it. Not to mention the crew capsule. Currently travelling at just over 2 kilometres per second. Goodness me, we're very fast. However, so far so good. 23 kilometres and descending. Seem to have a bit of upwards motion here, and oh no, we seem to have a little bit of flipping going on. Hopefully it's not too bad for Munrick. Thankfully we have slowed down enough in the atmosphere to the point where heating is no longer a concern, and it's just a matter of making sure the capsule stays together during our terminal stages of the descent here. Going to fire the parachute, which ultimately stabilises the pods. And now it's just a matter of descending back through the cloud layer. And it looks like we're going for a wet landing here. Once again, I'm sure my Kerbals are very tired of heaving themselves out of these pods into a wet and cold return. But all is well. I'm sure it's colder up on the moon. And I'm sure Munrick will be able to account for that to the scientists, being the first Kerbal to go to the moon. Regardless, Munrick is back home. Recover that vessel, and look at this! Oh my goodness me. 656 science earned, taking us up to a record 687. Oh, I am very much looking forward to seeing what we'll be able to unlock with this absolute motherload, as Munrick's prophecy is fulfilled. The man himself, Munrick Kerman, first Kerbal on the moon. And as a result of that, he's got many ribbons, being... let's have a look here. We have Research 7 ribbon, Splashdown ribbon, Mach 4 ribbon, I believe that is, G-Force 7 ribbon, First Moon Surface EVA ribbon, we've got First Landing on Moon ribbon, First Moon Orbital EVA ribbon, First Moon Orbit ribbon, we've got First Moon EVA ribbon, just generally speaking, the Speed Record ribbon, the Kerbin Orbits ribbon, and the 20% Solid Fuel Booster ribbon. Munrick is now possibly our most experienced Kerbal, with Jebediah, the test pilot, who kind of kick-started our space program there. Now, as you can see, we've got plenty of possible nodes to unlock, and we'll be having a look at those in the next episode as we determine what will be the next steps to take in our space program. Anyway, we're coming up to the end of this one. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. If you did enjoy today's episode, please do like and subscribe for more content like this. Fly safe, and I will see you guys in the next episode.